Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. The Center for Suicide and Violence Prevention Research in Ghana, in collaboration with the Mental Health Advocacy, is set to petition Parliament in a few days to decriminalize suicide. Clinical psychologist and sociologist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Joseph Osafo, said the petition has become necessary for the country to deal with the spate of suicide cases recorded in recent times. The group want government to repeal the law and rather put in place intervention policies and suicide policies. Dr. Osafo was speaking at a one-day stakeholders forum to discuss critical issues related to suicide prevention and mental health in general.
I think what we're going to do this time around is we're going to try as much as possible and sustain the advocacy. In 2012, when we did the petition, we lacked stakeholder support. We lacked a certain source of, if you like, data. For the past 6 years, following from 2012, we've had a lot of data now, and so we can really build very strong argument. And again, we have an advocacy group that we belong to, which is strongly going to push this at all levels, at Parliament, with the judiciary, with researchers, with church leaders. We just want to not just make noise, but this time around make maybe guided noise, but noise with facts. Okay, and you know, advocacy may take time, but you don't stop it. You try to lobby your way. We need to get some parliamentarians and lobby them. We need to be able to locate some political sympathizers in Parliament, in various organizations, work together with all stakeholders. And that's why at this stakeholders forum, you can see, we have several people represented here from various walks of life who are interested in this. And so that's exactly what we are going to be doing.
Okay, I know you're already making plans to petition Parliament. Which way do you intend going about it?
No, we already are close in formulating and putting the petition together. I've seen the petition. I'm one of the crafters of it. We are presently is with some lawyers who are also going through. We are not doing only this for suicidality. We also are seeing that there are labels within the legal codes of Ghana that actually stigmatize mental illnesses. For example, in some part, they are called imbeciles, they are called idiots. We want to look at all that so that we use one stone to kill two birds.
Dr. Joseph Osafo there. Meanwhile, country representative for the International Association for Suicide Prevention, Professor Charity Akotia, bemoaned the lack of seriousness in terms of government investments and support for mental health. According to her, this situation has contributed to the increasing trend of suicide in the country.
I think that we should be very worried, especially because suicide is preventable. Even one death is enough for us to be worried. But the figures that we are seeing now, and I'm sure that this is not all, what we are working with is what we see in the media. I think is frightening. And that is why we've called for this. We need to take some concrete actions and prevent suicide from our country.
I see this discussion as a very key stakeholders coming together, but at the end of it all, what do we seek to achieve with this forum?
Yes, at the end of the day, we want to put some strategies in place with regard to suicide prevention. We want to have some strategies to help us develop a national policy on suicide prevention. The government will have to play a role. We need to do research. Right now, mental health is a neglected issue, you know, in our country. If you look at the budget, even though I don't have figures, I know that mental health is always a neglect in our part of the world. So we need the government to come in to support research when it comes to issues concerning mental health and suicide in particular. right? So we need that, and based on the researches that we'll be doing, we can develop the policy out of it, how to go about preventing suicide. So that's one thing that at the end of this stakeholders forum we would like to achieve.
Okay.
Away from mental health, Chairman of Cocoa Brabopa Association, Pomase Ishmael, has backed moves by Board Chairman of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Hackman Uswajman, to cut down on the salaries of top management of the board. The board has been in the news recently over reports that top executives were earning as much as 75,000 cedis. Speaking to Joy News on the sidelines of a workshop on increasing cocoa production, leader of the association with more than 19,000 farmers as members believes that the board has failed farmers over the years.
Faced with enormous challenges, starting from the production level to the marketing level. So with production level, we know of late there has been a change in the climate. So when you look at the amount of rainfall that we used to get previously as compared to recent times, it's been going down and it's been affecting our production. That is at the climate level. And then we also do have a problem with inputs. Farmers would want to increase their yield when they get access to inputs, especially if it could be given on credit levels at flexible terms of payment. But as it stands now, the input prices keeps on going up. Meanwhile, the prices of the cocoa at the producer level is also coming down. So you could see there has been a direct variance regarding the overall cost of the farmers and then the amount of prices that we get from the produce that we also make. So basically, these are some of the problems that we face. And as within this particular time, the major problem that we are facing has to do with the galamsey menace. It has been a challenge. Every platform that we get, we talk about it. All our water bodies have been polluted. And it's just unfortunate of late, farmers have to carry water from their house, buy the sachet water from their house to their farm. When they want to even do the spraying, what kind of water are they going to use to do the spraying? Are we going to use the polluted water? Or we also have to carry clean water from our house to our farms? I was surprised. Farmers at our level, our livelihood, there's a problem with it. You go to some villages and even look at the standard of living in the village, and you ask yourself, you are the producer of the cocoa and a regulatory body that is supposed to champion your welfare. You see the executives taking this amount of money. When we hear some of these things, in fact, we didn't know. So when it came to us, some of us were just asking ourselves, why on earth? We really want, fine if they are saving our needs and they are taking that amount. We don't have much problem.
You think as it stands they are not?
Definitely not. We do have major problem in the industry that they need to address. Input is one of the problems. The way we are distributing inputs in this country, when we started with the free fertilizer, it was...
Well, Deputy CEO of Cocoa Board, Dr. Edouard Mpoma, has been reacting to the concerns raised by those farmers. Dr. Mpoma maintains that the board's leadership is not against the proposed cuts and will continue to work to better the lot of farmers.
If productivity, if a farmer's increase, productivity on the farm is increasing, it means the farmer's livelihood will be increased. And then anybody looking at the farmer will realize going into farmer is good. But if productivity is low, then it's not good for production. People will rather sell their farms. So what Cocoa Board is doing is to put in interventions that will ensure that productivity in the farmlands are increased tremendously. Right? For example, planting materials, using good agricultural practices, and using good farm, agro products that are not harmful to the environment, so that productivity is increased. Our interventions should improve on the productivity. We hope that if productivity on the farm is increased, a lot of the farmers will not release their lands for farmers, for galamsey. These are dicey issues, but we intend to raise money locally to see whether we can purchase the rest. And it's not bad as bad as that, no. We need roughly about $200 million, but we're trying to source funds locally to supplement. Yeah, local financial. Well, we're looking around through the Bank of Ghana and other processors, local processors. And, I think it's not been good for us, I know, but then we are trying to correct it. It's the new management in place, and we're going to make things more efficient. And I can.
You say you're trying to correct it.
Well, I've only been employed only 2 months, and I've not even received anything. It's a sacrifice. I don't think that much is I don't know how much is that.
You are willing to take a pay cut?
Quite, why not? It's a sacrifice. It's self-service. It's service to the nation. I don't see why we can sacrifice. We should be able to sacrifice.
So you agree with the view of the board chairman that there should be some cut in order to ensure that you have enough?
Obviously, yes. I agree with you.
All right. Well, whether or not it has to be cut, 75,000, I could do a lot with that. By the way, let's move on to some other stories. Former Deputy Local Government Minister Emmanuel Ajekum has filed a complaint of theft against members of the task force team that came to his house on Tuesday. This follows the loss of some gold bars during an attempt to retrieve a Toyota Land Cruiser V8 from his house suspected to belong to the state. Although the task force could not take the vehicle on Tuesday, another team of task force returned to Mr. Ajekum's home to retrieve 2 vehicles, the Toyota Land Cruiser V8 and another Ford pickup, which they resisted landing them at the Kwabinya police station. Joining us, editor Jifa Bampo has been following this story. She joins me in the studio. It's been a long time since I hosted you, Jifa. You're welcome.
Hi, Gifty.
Okay, so what do we know? Tell us more about this story. What happened?
Well, what it is that the Assets Committee has been searching for untraceable vehicles, and one of the information they got is in relation to a V8 Land Cruiser in the custody of the former Deputy Local Government Minister, Mr. Ajekum. So based on the information they had, they went to try and retrieve the vehicle on Tuesday. However, they didn't go with requisite documentation, and so they were turned away. But in the whole milieu of trying to get them to abandon the attempt to take the vehicle, they still wanted to check the chassis of the vehicle, and they said they wanted to check it from under the vehicle. So the former minister and his wife opened the vehicle and allowed them access. However, in the whole process, when it was all over and the people left without the vehicle, they claimed that that's when they realized that they had lost valuables from the vehicle. However, they went to make a formal report. They had not finished that whole process. Then another team of task force members came to them today to try and take the V8 Land Cruiser and another Ford pickup from them. They produced documentation they say shows it's their vehicles, but the task force will not hear of it. They wanted them to, they wanted to take the car to the castle.
So this is the vehicle we're talking about.
This is the V8 Land Cruiser. It's a 2017 registration. So it's a black, the typical one that we all know of. So because they refused to hand over the vehicles, they went back to the Kwabinya police station. The idea was that, okay, let's leave the vehicle in the hands of the police and then let's go and reconcile the papers. But the task force team refused. So it was a whole lot of argument back and forth. In the end, they agreed to allow Mr. Ajekum and his wife to drive both vehicles. Mr. Ajekum was to drive the Ford pickup, and then Mrs. Ajekum was to drive the V8 and go with the task force team to the Old Castle to reconcile their papers. But they reported a case of theft at the Kwabinya police station. Now, the task force team member today is saying that the people who came on Tuesday were not genuine people. So that poses a big problem because
and this is the second car.
This is the Ford. Yes, this is the silver Ford pickup. It's not even been registered actually. Still carrying a DV plate. So there are questions about really could that have belonged to the state if it wasn't registered. But that will all. But later on, this particular vehicle, I'm told, had been cleared by the task force. But Mr. Ajekum said he didn't want any more problems. So he wanted to drive this car, the silver pickup, and the V8 to the Old Castle so that they will take documentation from the castle, clearing the 2 vehicles so that anybody else who stopped them, they would produce the documentation.
So now there are concerns that the people who came, the first group who claimed to be members of the task force,
are not the people who should have come. And now that they say their valuable gold bars are lost, it's
yeah.
left to be seen how that matter will be dealt with.
And what's the police saying? Do we know?
The police were tight-lipped on the matter when I sought to speak to the commander. I was directed to the Accra Region Police Command, but the information I'm picking up is that it's being deemed as too big an issue for probably the Kwabenya police to handle and may be transferred to the police CID.
I see. Do we know anything more, any development so far?
From what I understand, they are at the Old Castle.
Okay.
I'm yet to get further information about whether that process will clear. I'm sure by 6 p.m. we'll have an update.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ifa, for giving us that particular update. But it's quite interesting because we don't really know the modus operandi of the task force. So
yes.
Anybody can just walk
Ideally,
up to
they are
you.
supposed to come, and that is the concern of Mr. Jekum and his wife, that now it means you can be on the road and anybody, group of people can pretend to be task force. Maybe they are armed robbers and they will take your vehicle from you. So they want this, what they deem to be this kind of harassment to stop. They want the committee to do due diligence on the vehicles before coming to accost people. They say they've been embarrassed in their community where they live because people have been coming out to see, and the perception is that they've stolen a state vehicle. They've come to the police station. There are people there. They feel embarrassed that they are being deemed to have stolen a state vehicle.
So this followed a tip-off.
Yes,
according to the
followed
people
yes, a tip-off.
And that's how they operate. They operate on tip-offs.
Well, some of it, but ideally, if you have the vehicle number, chassis number, and you know who is holding on to it, then you go and get it.
I see. So. Thank you very much. Chifa Bampo is editor here at Joy News, bringing us up to speed with what's happening. It's quite a worrying situation, but we'll move on from there. Let's look at the story that I told you about previously. The National Labour Commission says that it is probing cases of unfair termination of employment of some staff of the Millionaires Casino of the Golden Tulip Hotel here in Accra. Well, Joy News has gathered that there have been several cases of alleged wrongful termination of employment as well as maltreatment of staff at the casino. One of the affected staff told us that more than 60 employees have already been fired between July 2016 and January 2017. Management of the Millionaires Casino declined to comment on the issue. But in a previous interview, Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Charles Adongo Bawadjia, said that they had set March 29, which was yesterday, to hear the case. We'll be getting back to them for some more on that particular investigation and bring you all the updates. But right now, Nathaniel Atto is breathing down my neck to bring you sports here on The Pulse. Please stay.